Hey now, happy Thursday. Welcome to 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero back with you for 2 hours today. Dan back after a lovely vacation down to the southern part of the United States. Dan, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be back. I remember what all the buttons do.
That's good. That is very important for our line of work. Well, we're happy you're back. Shout out again to Kyle Manthey, who joined us for the last week. But the two of us back together. Short show today. We're done at 5 o'clock due to Royals baseball against the Tampa Bay Rays, first of a 4-game series. First pitch is set for 5:40. Pregame begins at 5 o'clock on the Royals radio network right here on 580 WIBW. But we've got a bunch to get to between now and our 5 o'clock stop time today. We'll talk some Royals baseball, previewing their series with the Rays. Some thoughts on how the Rays have gotten to the point they're at now, where they have followed this very specific model of roster building and roster churn and development, and how the Royals, signaled by hiring Matt Quatraro, among other things, have tried to follow that model or begin following that model anyway. What the Royals are trying to do, how the Rays have made it work. Also, Tom Verducci over at Sports Illustrated had a piece about the Royals.
Very uplifting headline.
Yeah, the headline of the piece, and again, Tom Verducci's been doing this for 40 years. He's one of the preeminent baseball writers there is. The Royals are the MLB disaster no one is talking about.
That's not entirely true. We are talking about
Yes, I would argue that we have done a better job talking about the Royals than anyone else. There are places that are physically closer to the Royals that don't talk about the Royals as much as we do.
Man, they don't have no award for that, but
no, but
we can pat ourselves on the back.
We are telling you we're going to have you covered, so we'll address that. There was a similar piece over at Royals Review yesterday that was more so about, like, hey, what is John Sherman actually doing as an owner of the Royals, which you'll never believe it, also not especially uplifting. So we'll get to all that, touching on the Royals coming up here in just a matter of moments. Also this hour, we've got our weekly round of either or over under. Plus, we'll talk to Rick Peterson from topsports.news on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for today's Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around. NBA draft coming up tonight. A lot of local intrigue for the draft. That doesn't always happen, but we've got a lot of local intrigue. Grady Dick expected to be a lottery pick. Jalen Wilson, Keontae Johnson, likely second rounders. Will anyone take Marquise Noel? We'll talk about all of that. Get some other thoughts on what will happen at the NBA draft tonight. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. A lot going on today. A lot from the basketball world, both professional and collegiate. The second to last IARP case has been resolved. Will Wade finally got his punishment for his strong-ass offer several years back. What does that mean for KU, which is still waiting its IARP resolution? All that, what is wrong with you? As I mentioned, either or, over, under, all coming up in the next 2 hours right here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll get to your texts throughout the shows, 785-272-9429. That's the text line number. And on YouTube, our channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Just go to YouTube, search Sports on 580. You will find the live stream right there, and you'll be able to subscribe to our channel there as well. One quick note, we don't touch on this quite as much, but we also live stream the show on Twitter every day. You can also find it on our Twitter feed. Currently, if you're on social media or you've seen anything in the news, Twitter sometimes just doesn't work right now. The new owner of that website fired a bunch of people, and not a lot of features work. Right now, we're not able to stream on Twitter. So if that's where you usually watch, head over to YouTube, subscribe there, watch there. We'll try to get the Twitter stream up as soon as we can. Thank you for that, Elon.
Yeah, you should probably, I don't know, maybe not trust his rockets or his cars if he can't make a website work.
Rockets, cars. I'm at a point where I'm not really, the older you get, and I think a lot of people feel this way, the less you trust a lot of people. And between a website I once enjoyed completely breaking and that same person making cars and rocket ships, and also a bunch of super wealthy people meeting their demise because they decided, what if I went and explored the bottom of the ocean, and that being ill-fated? I don't really trust anything at this point. If you're not in the immediate circle, I'm not really going to trust anything anymore, which maybe makes me cynical, but also maybe just means I'm someone who has listened to Dayton Moore talk about how they were contending the last 5 years.
A rich person's idea is not always a good idea just because they're rich.
Ain't that the truth?
There's a lot of that in the news.
Anyway, let's talk about John Sherman and the Kansas City Royals. Royals-Rays coming up tonight, as I mentioned, 4-game series.
That's what I was doing on vacation. I was doing some scouting.
Oh, yes. Yes, you got to enjoy a game down at the Trop.
I did go to the Trop.
How is the stadium? Because I feel like a lot of the talk about it is negative. Like, why is there a catwalk up there?
There are several catwalks.
Yeah, why is the roof the same color as the baseball so you can't see it when it's up in the air?
Happened to me a few times.
There's nobody in the park, even though they're winning. Why is that? How was Tropicana Field?
I will say, of the 3 baseball stadiums that I have been to that have roofs, retractable or otherwise, I would rank Tropicana Field comfortably ahead of both Chase Field in Phoenix and the new Globe Life Field in Arlington, where the Rangers play. Those are just the way that they're built, the boxiness of them, which you kind of have to have, I guess, with a retractable roof. It doesn't feel like a baseball stadium. It just feels like they happen to drop baseball into the middle of a mall. Tropicana Field feels like a baseball field just with a roof on it. Like, it feels like a baseball stadium.
Okay.
It's built like a baseball stadium. The seating is arranged like a traditional baseball stadium. 3 decks all the way around, bleachers in left, bleachers in right. Like, that's feels like baseball enough to me. Also, a good crowd. Incidentally, and perhaps John Sherman could learn from this, people come out and see your baseball team when it's good. And no, they don't sell the upper deck tickets at Tropicana Field unless they absolutely have to. But they fill out the bottom deck pretty good. There were some standing room only tickets that were being sold for that game. Like, they got a good visiting fan contingent too. There were a lot of Orioles fans in the building on Tuesday night when I was there. But no, good atmosphere, good buzz, good vibe, good baseball team, which helps it all. Yeah, I enjoyed the Trop a great deal more than I anticipated.
As for the upcoming series, the Royals will be taking on that Rays team. The Rays are the best team in baseball. The Royals are not, to put it lightly. They are quite bad. I was looking at the recent results from around Major League Baseball, not 20 minutes ago. And because I thought, man, it feels like there's a lot of teams that are either on really hot streaks or really cold streaks. The Reds have won 11 in a row. The Braves are super hot. The Giants have won 10 straight. The Cubs have been red hot recently, which has been fun for me personally. Then there are some other teams that are cold in the NL. In the American League,
weirdly, that's 3 of the last 4 teams the Colorado Rockies have played.
That's tough.
Yeah, so I'm sure that's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah. The American League, however, everybody is 4-6, 5-5, 6-4 in the last 10 games. 12 of the 15 teams in the American League are hovering right around 500 in recent memory. The only 3 exceptions, the A's, the White Sox, and your Kansas City Royals. They are taking on a team here that at least I think there's a little intrigue going into this matchup, because I think we're at a point where game to game, we can talk about the individual failings or successes, more so the former than the latter. But if you go back even a couple weekends to when the Royals played the Orioles, I think there was intrigue going into that because, hey, these teams not long ago were in a very similar spot, both trying to rebuild to dig out of this hole. The Orioles were the worst team in baseball. 2 years later, they're a legitimate playoff contender. They're actually pretty good, and they're really fun to watch. The Royals are not. What has gone wrong? I think you can take a similar but different approach looking at this weekend. The Rays are obviously the best team in baseball, and they've been competitive and among the best teams in baseball for several years now. They played in a World Series not all that long ago during the COVID season. In fact, they've played in multiple in the last, 15 years now. I guess the Royals have too. But my point being, the Royals have made a concerted effort to mimic or start mimicking what the Rays have done to find success.
Or at the very least, what organizations like the Rays have done.
Fair,
right?
Fair.
Like it's not a straight line. Like, we want to be the Tampa Bay Rays, but it's not an accident that they brought in a manager who came from that organization. Just like it's not an accident that when they rejiggered their pitching coaching staff, they brought in pitching coaches from Minnesota and from Cleveland, organizations that have had a great deal of success developing pitching and getting good results from their big league pitching staff. Like, it's not a mistake. And there are certainly worse organizations that you could mimic than the Tampa Bay Rays. It's not just their recent run of success, right? This is going back now pretty much from 2008 onward. This is kind of what the Rays have been. Fairly steadily is a team that contends, a team that develops a lot of its own players, a team that makes savvy trades, a team that does well with reclamation projects to fill out their roster, whether that's in the bullpen or on their bench. There are worse teams to emulate than the Tampa Bay Rays. And right now, you'd love to trade places with the Rays if you're the Royals, because the Rays are 52-25 and they're in first place and they have more wins than any other team in baseball. The things that the Rays do well on offense are not things that the Royals do well on offense. The Rays hit the most home runs and draw the most walks and steal the most bases and have the highest slugging percentage and the highest OPS. Like, everybody on their team is good. They don't have a single position other than catcher where they have a below average hitter playing on a day-to-day basis. If you go by OPS plus everywhere, every one of their regulars right now, and that includes Taylor Walls instead of Brandon Lau, because Walls has been playing second base with Lau on the injured list. Every one of these dudes is an above average hitter. Every last one of them except their catchers. And it starts with a very fundamental truth that getting on base is good and hitting the ball over the fence is good. And the Royals do that exceptionally well. Now, different circumstances for the Royals in that it's not going to be as easy to hit a bunch of home runs playing 81 games at Kauffman Stadium. But still, like, if you're going to emulate anything that the Rays do offensively, you got to hit the ball over the fence. Like, even a guy like Taylor Walls, who I'm guessing the average listener probably is like, who the hell are you talking about? He is their 26-year-old, currently their everyday second baseman with Brandon Lau, who's been an all-star before, who has a 37 home run season to his name and had 9 home runs in 50 games before he got hurt. Taylor Walls has 7 home runs in 62 games. So essentially that's 16 home runs out of that spot in the lineup. They've got 6 other guys on their team with double-digit home runs just individually, and 3 more guys with 8 or more. I hate to simplify it to brass tacks and say, yeah, it's good to hit home runs. Well, of course it's good to hit home runs. But you can say all you want about data, and you can say all you want about being more analytically inclined. And I think those are all good things. I don't mean to poo-poo those things and say that that's not the direction that the Royals need to be going. But sometimes it's simple as this. I mean, the Rays have gotten power from guys who were good power hitters in the minor leagues, but also guys who've kind of grown their power as they've gone along. Because I think when you're developing a player, power hitters may not always be able to hit for power. Because what have we talked about with Nick Pratto and MJ Melendez? These are guys who hit the ball hard, right? Like, you go look generally at their exit velocities or their barrel percentage, hard hit percentage. Bobby Witt Jr. same way. You go look at their numbers, and they hit the ball hard. And when you hit the ball hard and you hit the ball in the air, that should produce power. That should produce home runs. But you have to do it frequently. You have to get to that power, and you cannot get to it if you are swinging and missing as often as Nick Pratto, who strikes out 34% of the time, as Witt and Melendez, who are around 30% of the time swinging and missing. Now, that power doesn't do you any good if you can't get to it. Good hitters can develop power, but good power guys, if they don't have that hit tool, that's a lot harder to develop. Maybe that's an organizational philosophy that the Royals start to move towards in the future. Again, what Verducci points out in his article is that it was never really realistic to expect the Royals to completely remake themselves as an organization in 3 months after what they've been and the decline that they've been on and the slide that they took and all the steps backwards that they took and all the wrongheadedness and all the antiquated ideas that were part of the Dayton Moore regime. And especially if JJ Piccolo's running the show, some of those ideas are still there.
I was going to say, and I think we've talked about that a lot, that you can't just, like, it's not just fire Dayton Moore and things are fixed. Like, you've got to completely overhaul everything that had been built and let that he and his staff let fall into ruin in recent years. It's not that simple. And to your point, I think you pointed that out. So you end up now in this spot where not only are you trying to build toward the future, but you kind of have to, you have to dig out the foundation, if you will. You have to pull out the roots of this plant that is dying and killing off all the other plants. I'm not really a botanist, so I don't know exactly how accurate that is, but I think the principle is in place there. Mm-hmm. And that is the point. Like, look at what this team is. And that is why, as frustrating as it has been to watch them this year, I have thought, at least at times, like, I can't blame what is here too much, because look at what is here. Like, look at what this Royals organization has now been given. When you bring in Matt Quatraro, when you promote JJ Picollo, who does not, his hands are not completely blood-free in this instance because he has been in the front office for a long time. But, like, what are you working with? Nothing. This is not usable. It's not modern baseball.
There aren't enough good players.
Right.
And there aren't enough good players coming because the drafts have not been very kind to the Royals in recent years. And that is going to take some time to steer around. It's like, it's like turn around a cruise ship. Those don't turn fast. They don't turn on a dime.
Yep.
That is always true. But I think if you watch the Rays this weekend, and you should, I know not everybody has the ability to watch the Royals, and I certainly know that not everybody has the desire to watch Kansas City Royals baseball these days. And I get that. But the Rays are kind of fun, and you should watch them. You should watch them tonight because Shane McClanahan's pitching, and he might be the best pitcher in the American League. He's 11-1 with a 2.12 ERA, and he's going for the Royals tonight. The pitching matchup is that dude against Jose Cuas. Like, you go into tonight's game thinking the Royals are going to win, and, God help you. You and Fulton have company, I guess. But this is a fun Rays team. They've got an identity in a way that I really didn't think they did when they went to the World Series in 2020. They felt kind of like a hodgepodge of parts that were slapped together, and it works because the Rays just seem to make it work. But they've got a bit of an identity now. They got a fun ball club. And when you watch them this weekend, if you're able to, if you watch them over the next 4 games, you're going to see some things that I think are achievable over the long haul for the Royals. But I want to stress, I mean over the long haul. Mm-hmm. This is not going to happen overnight. Number one, you have to absolutely flood the zone, not to use a term, or raid the zone, is I guess what the Royals pitchers were using in spring training. But you've got to flood your organization with dudes. Like, you have to have a deep organization. It's not just about, well, we got to hit on this first round pick. No, you've got to find guys in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 10th, 15th round that fit your organizational profile and have the kind of floor as prospects, like major league floor, that help you maybe trade them for better players if you need to. But when you look at the Rays and how they're built, they have used 32 different players to pitch this year, 32 different pitchers this season. Now, one of them's a position player, Christian Betancourt, so we don't count him. So we'll say 31 guys. And it's
crazy.
Yeah, and it's a wild mix of guys that they drafted and developed and were really patient with out of their bullpen, guys that they acquired in trades that were just kind of throw-ins that they've brought up, guys who were, cast-offs, who they've brought in and gotten some decent or at least livable work out of, guys like former Royal Jake Diekman, who I did not know until Tuesday night was a Tampa Bay Ray. And then there he was walking out of the bullpen in the 9th inning. Or, hey, as long as we're on the subject of Royals castoffs, Jason Adam, who went from just a guy to an all-star in Tampa Bay. So it's a mix. Like, Tyler Glasnow, one of their best starting pitchers, they acquired him in a trade. Shane McClanahan, they drafted. Zach Eflin, they spent a little money on. 3 years, $40 million. Who'd you rather have? Eflin at 3 for 40 or Jordan Lyles 2 for 19? Don't answer that. I already know the answer. Taj Bradley's the guy they drafted. He's in their rotation. I think he's going to pitch. No, he won't pitch this weekend because he pitched yesterday. But it's a combination. You can't have too many. And the Royals tried that, but mishandled the development of a generation of minor league pitchers. And now they're trying to build that out with the next group of guys. But that's lesson 1 from the Rays. And lesson 2 from the Rays is find good hitters and they'll develop their power. Don't worry about finding great power and hoping the hitting comes along. I think for the Royals, particularly the Royals, who are never going to be a team that hits like 275 home runs in a season, because that's just not realistic. You play anyone at Kauffman Stadium. Find guys who have the good contact skill. The power can come along from that, instead of banking on, because you got too many guys, and the Royals do deserve credit because MJ Melendez and Nick Pratto in particular were trending toward not being prospects. And those guys are big leaguers now. I don't know if any of them are going to be stars. I'm starting to not feel real great about that for Melendez and Pratto. We're still very early in the process, but they're big leaguers. I feel comfortable in saying they're big league players. And the Royals deserve credit for kind of rescuing is overwrought in this conversation, but turning them from non-prospects into prospects while they were still in the minor leagues. But when you have so many guys like that who, they got the big power. Question is, are they going to get to it? Well, more often than not, the answer to that ends up being, man, they're going to strike out a lot when they get to the major leagues. You get to the guys who put the bat on the ball, they're Vinny Pasquantinos. Those are the kinds of guys I think the Royals want to try and identify. Because those are the guys I think they're going to be able to turn into better hitters. But it does. It starts with drafting. It starts with development. It starts with being analytically minded from the minute these guys hit the organization. And it is not going to be an overnight sensation. You're just going to have to wait. It's going to take some time. But when you watch the Rays, your hope has to be that J.J. Picollo and everybody else in that front office is saying, maybe we don't want to be 100% this, but this is kind of an ideal. We want to have this much talent. We want to have this many guys so that, like, you can trade a Cy Young Award winner and not miss a beat like they did when they traded Blake Snell after 2020.
This is very much tied into something I was talking about on Thursday's show last week about being intentional with the pieces you add, with the trades you make, with the types of players you want to add to your roster, and why sacrificing long-term projections and upside and talent for guys you can play right away, guys you can put on the major league roster right away, why that doesn't help a team that's in the Royals position. Because your big league depth is trash, but what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to just stay afloat and field the team? Or are you trying to find a way to build a contender, not even a contender, a competitive ball club at some point? That's why you've got to be intentional. When you trade Aroldis Chapman, you've got to say, hey, look, we want to trade this guy. We're willing to trade him to you. We need someone who is going to have this profile. We need someone who is going to be regarded as a top X prospect. Same with Scott Barlow. Same with Taylor Clark. He's been struggling lately. But whoever you end up moving, you've got to be intentional about, this is our plan. This is what we want to be. What deals can we make to make sure we get those pieces to get there? The nice thing is right now you essentially have a blank slate. You can do whatever you want because between AA and AAA, there's not a whole lot coming down the pipe. The unfortunate thing is you essentially have to build from scratch because there's not a whole lot in terms of future MLB talent at those two levels right now. We will talk a little bit more about the Royals coming up in a little bit as we get ready for Royals Rays tonight. 5 o'clock end time for us as we send you to the Royals Radio Network then for pregame. Right now, though, we'll get to our first commercial break of the show. We'll come back, play some either or over under, and Rick Peterson from TopSports.News will join us later this hour right here on 580 Sports Talk. 6:42 on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you. It's a Thursday edition of the show. That means it's time for some either or over under. We've got one to start off with a little bit of a baseball tinge to it.
Yeah, we were talking about the Rays and the Royals as they get set to meet in the first of four at Tropicana Field tonight. The Rays in 77 games have 52 wins. Wow. The Royals in 74 games have 54 losses. What number will be higher at the end of the season? Rays wins or Royals losses?
Right now, the Royals are on pace for 118 losses. That would be the most in franchise history, by the way.
Be the most in most franchises.
Most franchise histories, yes. That's one of the, 5 worst seasons in baseball history?
Easily.
Yeah. I believe so. I am going to go with the higher number is Royals losses. It is going to be hard for the Rays to win 110 games. They're really good. They're really good. It's hard to be that good. I mean, you could be the best team in baseball, win 102 games, and that's an overwhelming success easily. I think that is more likely than all of a sudden the Royals put together multiple long winning streaks and get down to just about 100 losses. So I'll say Royals. I think the Royals are going to end up setting a new franchise record for losses this season, which sucks. But it is what it is. And I will say Royals losses is higher.
Yeah, they don't have enough solutions on the way to make you feel really good that they're going to be able to address the thing that is losing them games, which is their starting pitching. So that's why I think they're probably going to lose in the mid 100s at the very least, 106, the franchise record. That is definitely in play. It's hard to win that many games. I think it's almost easier to be bad and lose a lot than it is to win and win like that. Especially, I mean, you look at the American League East, everybody's over 500 still. The Rays have come back to the pack a little bit. They're only 5 games up on Baltimore. The lead was down to 4 before they beat the O's yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I will say that I feel better about the Royals losing 100 games than I do about the Rays winning 100. Rays are going to win a lot. I think they'll probably win 95 plus, but I think the Royals will lose more than the Rays win. What a depressing thing to say out loud.
Yeah, no kidding. I put it when I was cross-talking on Tuesday with Jake and Fulton on Mic'd Up, when they ask every week, what's the percentage chance the Royals lose 100 games? And I said 90. Fulton, by the way, said 95. He has gone off the deep end. I will probably be there next time I talk to them. Jake then asked, percentage the Royals set a new franchise record for losses. I put it 60. I probably undersold it at that point. It maybe should have been closer to 70, 75%. My either or over under for today. We're going to talk plenty of NBA draft later, expectations for the KU and K-State players, where they're going to go, other thoughts, etc. You are a 41-41 NBA team. You are middle of the road. You are not really a contender, but you're also not a lottery team. You are right in the middle of the road. You have 2 draft picks tonight at some point in the draft. You have to take one of these packages. Which are you taking? Grady Dick and Marquise Noel, or Jalen Wilson and Keontae Johnson? You have to draft one of those packages. Which are you taking?
Taking 41-41. So I'm as good as the Atlanta Hawks and the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, you are
essentially
dead on average.
The ultimate currency in basketball is, I guess, ultimate currency is kind of a wild leap to use as a metaphor. Forgive me, I'm a little rusty. A week off of takes. I have to give any takes in the last week, so I'm a little rusty. Let me try that again. The thing that you're looking for, if you're going to stockpile something, if you're going to have a lot of one thing that you feel like can help you, the thing you can never have too many of, are big wings. And Keontae Johnson, Jalen Wilson are both big wings. So Jalen Wilson, I don't know if you heard, not as big as they said he was in his career at Kansas. Measured at 6'6" at the combine.
Yeah.
Although, in fairness, that was without shoes.
Which I don't get. Who plays barefoot?
Yeah.
Wear shoes.
Yeah, last I checked, you do, in fact, play basketball in tennis shoes. Basketball shoes, in fact. And, maybe that is more important than what you measure when you stand flat-footed. But Johnson and Wilson are both that. And if I get those 2 players, I'm fairly confident that they could play that role for me, scoring wings potentially in the NBA with a chance to be able to help you defensively because they're big enough. Grady Dick will be the best NBA player of the four, but I don't think Marquise Noel is an NBA player. So I'll take the package with the two guys I think are NBA players.
It's an interesting question, I think. You pat myself on the back for that, I guess.
Yeah.
Thinking that it's either do you take the higher upside or do you take the not a sure thing, because there's no sure thing when it comes to second round picks in the NBA draft, but you take guys who have, it's established what they are. They're older. They've got a specific profile. They're going to be able to do a couple of different things. I think I might lean with Grady Dick, just the Grady Dick grouping, even if you don't end up getting an NBA player in Noel, because you have that higher upside. You have the potential for, look, there are probably going to be some games where he scores 4 points and goes 1 of 7 from 3. That's just what happened. Steph Curry has had off nights. Klay Thompson has had off nights. That just happens sometimes.
And you do have the concern about whether or not he can really guard. But
For
if
sure.
there's any of those guys that has a chance to be an NBA All-Star, you would say Grady Dick before any of the other three.
Yeah, I would say I would lean with that guy because I think he has the closest thing to star potential. And that is what wins in the NBA is stars. So I think I'd go with the high upside group. I think we'll get to this at 4:00. I'm a little surprised, I think, and this isn't an insult at Jalen Wilson. I'm a little surprised that he is almost universally considered higher on draft boards than Keontae Johnson. I'm not surprised that some people consider that. I'm a little surprised it's universal, but we'll talk about that a little more coming up at 4:00. That's coming up in a little bit. First, we have to get to a break. Rick Peterson from TopSports.News is going to join us next for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around right here on 580 Sports Talk.
I'm Jim. football team at my high school. They were tough.
And that makes Rick a citizen of the world.
Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline is Rick Peterson, who covers all things prep sports and Washburn sports for topsports.news. Head to the website for all the best coverage of all of our local teams, and make sure you're also following Pistol on Twitter, where his handle is @Peterson_Rick. How you doing, Pistol? What's going on?
Oh, just relaxing on my deck right now. It's a great day.
Hey, love to hear that. Yeah, and enjoying the great weather. We are less than a week away, Pistol, from the Shawnee County Sports Banquet coming up next week. How excited are you?
I'm not sure that excited is the word I'd use, but no, it's for the just from my standpoint, I'm a little nervous and a little stressed out. But for preparations and all the stuff Bill Griffin's done, and all the cooperation of the other inductees and the high school athletic directors and coach, it's been great. Preparations have been going good. We think we're really going to have a big crowd. And that's always good. We think we're going to fill the room at Washburn. And, for everybody else except me, I'm very excited.
I was going to say, how is your personal preparation coming? Obviously, getting inducted into the Hall of Fame next week. We're all very excited for that moment to come. How has the preparation for, taking the stage and having your moment been?
I haven't really started on that, Brendan. I should have and will at some point. I mean, obviously, I got a little bit of an idea, about the people I want to thank and that kind of things. But no, I'll hopefully over the weekend. But I'm guessing Monday or Tuesday will probably be when I really get serious about it. I do know we have some really good people coming in. Legendary Hayden coach Ben Meskey let us know he's coming back for this. The Washburn Rural coaching legend, now Division I assistant coach Bill Annan's coming back from this for this. We got some really good people that are going to be there, so that excites me more than anything.
No, that is awesome. It's going to be a great crowd. Excited that we're going to be there and get to see that big moment for you, for all the Hall of Famers, and obviously all of our local athletes who are going to be honored at the event coming up next Wednesday. We're talking to Rick Peterson from topsports.news. It's the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around here on 580 Sports Talk. Make sure you're following all of Pistol's work covering our local sports over at topsports.news. We had some big news right after we stopped talking last week during our segment, Pistol. It couldn't have been more than an hour after we got off the phone. News of a league merger. Some of the smaller schools just north of the city, northeast and west of the city, in fact. We now have the Big East League, not to be confused with the college conference, but the Big Seven and the Mid-East League merging together. We talked about this several months ago when it was first reported that this was possibly going to happen. Now that it is set in stone, how surprised are you that everything came together to actually make this merger work out?
I guess I'm a little surprised, but very happy. I mean, I think it'll be a great league. I mean, that'll be a great, really good smaller school league. So yeah, I'm excited to see it. It's a lot of good tradition-rich programs that are, if they haven't already been playing each other, at least in the regular season, they'll get a chance to do that now. So I think it's good, and I can't remember. It won't be this year, will it? Will it? Maybe. Probably 2024, maybe.
I believe. Actually, Pistol, I do believe it's supposed to start this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's unusual that they can get everything because, people do their schedules in advance. So maybe they had the foresight to go ahead and do it because that would be great. The sooner you can do it, the better.
Yeah, it looks as though they are going to start it this year, although now I'm seeing some contrasting things. So I'll keep looking, see if we can get confirmation, but it is going to happen soon. And I think there's two elements of keeping those matchups together that stand out. And the first one is the fact that we're going to keep the most important rivalries. Rock Creek has played those teams for a long time. They're moving leagues. Well, Bunzie's played some of these teams for a long time. They're moving leagues. But, we keep Silver Lake Rossville. We keep Nemaha Central and Sabetha and those teams, the Big Seven that have had those rivalries, keeping those all together, I think, is so important. And it's what we've lost with so much of the realignment here in the city in recent years.
Yeah. And that's the one thing, and we've talked about it quite a bit, that we did kind of lose some of the big rivalries in our city league. So yeah, I'm glad to see that because I can't imagine a world without Rossville and Silver Lake going up against each other. So and up north, I'd say Nemaha Central and Sabetha would say the same thing. And then Holton's had some great rivalries. Yeah, it's I'm a big fan of the rivalries, and I think the fans are too.
And to that point too, now, and some of these teams have already played each other. There was non-league scheduling for a long time, and now with districts and the way it's all set up, some of these teams were playing each other regardless. But, getting games that are technically league matchups when, Rossville could play Sabetha, or you could get Silver Lake versus Nemaha Central. Like, that's exciting to me. Those are the kind of matchups that, to me, and I'm not trying to put anyone down, Pistol. I'm not trying to relitigate history, but games like that seem to feel more natural than, say, like Highland Park versus KC Washington, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just because they're traditional powers and they're in their natural rivals.
Yeah,
I mean they're natural rivals. We're talking about probably an hour 15 at the most for them to go to any of those schools. I think that's key too, to keep travel costs down, cultivate more rivalries, and I don't see any downside to this.
We're talking to Rick Peterson. It is our Invista Credit Union High School whip around here on 580 Sports Talk. Pistol joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Make sure you're following him on Twitter if you're on social media. His handle is @Peterson_Rick. Last week, Pistol, we previewed Shawnee Heights football's Battle of the Bigs lineman camp.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to know, I know you were out there. You were with Jason Swift and the Shawnee Heights team as they were going through that camp, and all the local athletes were going through it. How was this year's Battle of the Bigs out in Tecumseh?
It's fun. I mean, it's fun. I mean, from an outside standpoint, it's one of the events I really look forward to. And I know Coach Swift and his staff and the other coaching staffs that bring in their teams. They work hard on this, but it's fun to see a bunch of linemen out there with big old smiles on their face and cheering on their teammates and maybe razz them a little bit when they mess up a little bit. It's a great event. I'm surprised more people, maybe they do in other states, but I'm surprised more people don't do an event like this.
For Shawnee Heights in particular, and as we get closer to football season, which is still a couple of months away now, for this Shawnee Heights program, they have really built a lot of momentum in the last couple of years. They had that huge comeback second half of the year 2 years ago. Last year, a very solid year. It turns out, kind of out of nowhere, they end up having one of the best running backs, not just in the region, but in the state in general. I feel like, this is a camp they do every year, and I know this one thing doesn't signify greatness going forward, but it feels like there's a lot of momentum behind that program right now. Do you feel kind of a similar way that it really feels like they're building towards something at Shawnee Heights?
Yeah, I think they feel that way. And the thing is, that's turned into a really good football league. I mean, the UKC is a really good league. So you can be a really good team and not have like a 8-1 record or anything. Mm-hmm. But I think it gets you ready for the playoffs and helps you continue to build in the areas you need to build for the future. And I think that's what you're kind of alluding to with Shawnee Heights. I think they've just taken these steps every year. And a lot of people, probably including me to a certain extent, wondered about if it was a good move when they went to the UKC several years ago. I got to tell you, I mean, it looks like it's been a really good move for them, and there's a lot of other schools that are starting to want in that league.
Yeah, it's a really darn good league. We talked a lot about how deep it was in basketball and how good the top of it was in basketball. That football in that league is really darn good, and I'm looking forward to another year of UKC football action coming up here in the next couple of months. There are a couple of former high school city athletes that are now thriving or arriving at Washburn, Pistol, that I wanted to ask you about before we let you out of here. That starts with Tylen Alejos, the former standout at Topeka High, who spent last year redshirting as a walk-on at KU. He's transferring to Washburn, and I know Isaac Deer over at TopSports.news put together a profile on him. What do you make of that fit for Tylen heading to Washburn? Because when I saw that was happening, honestly, first thing I thought was this is a perfect fit, I think, for both program and player.
Well, and the thing is, he decided to make the move after he had a really good spring at KU, got a lot of time in the spring game and everything else. But I think he was really wanting to get to a place where he thought he could play right away. And one thing, we know Tylen's a really good player. We also know he doesn't lack for confidence. So immediately, and you'll see in Isaac's story, he talks about wanting to set records and all that. So we know he's going to come in, really raring to go and try to make a name for himself at Washburn right off the bat.
No, that is awesome. And I got to speak to Tylen a number of times while he was at Topeka High. Really fun to talk to, fun interview, and obviously a whale of a player. And looking forward to him starting his Ichabod's career. The other player on the Washburn football team and golf team, who is an incredible high school athlete up at Seaman, Gavin Wilhelm, not only carving out a place on the special teams for Craig Sherrick's group, Pistol, but starting off a pretty good golf career here in the city too.
I always like talking to Gavin because he's one of those kids that if there was a sport going on at Seaman, he probably was going to be involved. He was involved in, I think he started out playing baseball, and then the other four sports he played were soccer and football in the fall, and then basketball in the winter, and then golf in the spring, and he was good in all of them. And if you remember right, the one that kind of gets left in the dust a little bit is he played a really, really, really key role in the Vikings winning that state championship his senior year. He shut down one of the absolute best players in the state in that championship game. And so you can't forget that. He has no intention of doing this at all, but I know one time I said, well, shoot, you should just go ahead and go out for basketball too. I mean, you're already doing all these others. So, but no, he's got a real good chance of being a key player for Washburn football team as a kicker and a punter and probably a kickoff man. He's got an opportunity. And then I think he'll move his way up with the golf team as we go on. And winning that match play title last Sunday was a big step.
Yeah, it was a standout at Seaman and all those sports that Pistol just listed. A state champion in basketball, and he was phenomenal that entire run, Pistol. Made a couple of big shots in the semis, too, if I remember correctly. Huge in the final, and now off to a great start in his Washburn career, too. Rick Peterson covers all of our local teams, Preps and Washburn, better than anybody, and he does it over at topsports.news. Head to the website for all the best coverage of our local athletes, and if you're on Twitter, make sure you're following Pistol. His handle is @Peterson_Rick. As always, Pistol, we appreciate the time. We will see you next Wednesday at the Shawnee County Sports Banquet.
Okay, hopefully I'll be ready by then.
We can't wait for it. Thanks, Pistol.
Thank you.
That is Rick Peterson from topsports.news. He's just like me, just procrastinating to the last minute, even for like, hey, let's celebrate you. Okay, I'll wait till the last minute.
I'll get it done when it needs doing.
Yeah, what? Give me a deadline. It will be done by that deadline. Not a minute earlier, not a minute later. It will be done at the deadline. We've got 1 hour left today on 580 Sports Talk. We'll talk a little NBA draft. Where are Grady Dick, Jalen Wilson, Keontae Johnson heading tonight? We'll talk about it next on 580 Sports Talk. edition of 580 Sports Talk on a Thursday afternoon. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero here with you. Dan back after a week on the beach. Welcome back. We did talk about this during the break. We had someone on the text line fill Dan in about our pal Tim Fitzgerald's questions about his beach trip. Not super tanned, and also more modest swimwear than the Speedo.
Yeah, not a Speedo guy. I don't think. Frankly, I don't think the rest of the beach deserves to see that, or needs to. Probably more needs to than deserves to. Let's keep it all the way real. But no, I came out of it okay. I'm a big fan of not being sunburnt, so a lot of shade. I do the sun shirt a lot when I'm out by the beach or by the pool. So yeah, not terribly tan, not uncomfortably tan. But no, good trip. Did not offend anybody's eyes or sensibilities by the beach. So either you're welcome or I'm sorry, I guess, depending on your point of view on that.
Yeah, I'm also severely anti-sun. Like I get on my wife all the time. Like, are you wearing sunscreen? Did you put enough on? Did you reapply? I don't need, the SPF 100 on, but I will apply anytime I'm out, probably multiple times, especially if I'm in the water. I hate it. The three things on earth I hate more than anything else are carrots, sunburn, and the Minnesota Vikings. And I do not want to deal with any of them at any point. So sunscreen is a must at all times. But I'm glad you didn't get burned, and glad you're back from your trip down to Florida. I at first was like, should I share where Dan is? Is that like an invasion of privacy? But then I thought, well, he literally tweeted he was at a Rays game today, so I guess it's fine.
Yeah, I was a little free with my assassination coordinates on social media. So no, yeah, it was Madera Beach area. If anybody's familiar with that, down Madera Beach, Johns Pass, the Gulf side of Tampa Bay area. Family friend was getting married. Somebody that my wife had babysat when she was a little girl. So
how about that?
It was cool to go and see the wedding. Weddings are a good time, especially when there's an open bar, as there was.
There you go.
And it was right on Tampa Bay, which is kind of cool. And then we spent the rest of the time. Went to a Rays game, went to a minor league baseball game in Clearwater. Spent a lot of time on the beach, spent some time in the ocean, spent a lot of time in the pool. Had a good time. Rested and ready, and glad we're easing into things with just 2-hour show today. I got to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's
long
good
travel day / night for your boy yesterday. So.
No, it's a perfect way to build us back up into to normal take habits. We're done today at 5 o'clock. That's when we'll send you to the Royals Radio Network. We've got Royals versus Rays, game 1 of a 4-game set coming up tonight from Tampa. That is coming up this evening here on 580 WIBW. So we're done at 5. We got just 1 hour left. Busy 4 o'clock hour for you, though. We'll preview the NBA draft here in just a second. At least 3 local players going tonight in all likelihood, almost certainly. So we'll touch on those 3 players and what's going to happen with Marquise Noel as well. We've got today's What is Wrong with You? And we've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines before we finish things up with a final word. Text line's open, 785-272-9429. And you can also jump into the YouTube comment section. YouTube channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. 3 players from the combination of KU and K-State likely going to get drafted tonight. Grady Dick, Jalen Wilson, both from KU, Keontae Johnson from K-State, and then Marquise Noel. Let's just start there, because I know K-State fans, and not necessarily speaking for all of them, but there's a lot that would love to see him get the opportunity.
And I would love to see him get the opportunity.
Sure.
I think anybody who watched him the last 2 years, watched him in the NCAA tournament, would love to see Marquise Noel get the opportunity.
I think he is going to end up, if I had to guess, and we talked about this with Fitz yesterday, and he said, hey, look, it only takes one, and maybe there is a team at the very back end of the second round that says, you know what, this is usually, a draft and stash pick or a pick on a guy who might never come over from Europe or, total lottery ticket. We don't plan to make the roster anyway. Let's just take a stab at it. Maybe it works out. Maybe someone takes him, pick. There's only 58 picks this year. So like 56, 57, 58, something like that. I think he is going to end up in a situation very similarly to Devon Dotson from KU 3 years ago, where didn't get drafted. He was signed 10 minutes after the draft ended. He got a promise from the Bulls that said, hey, look, we're not going to draft you. We're picking too early for that, but we want to bring you in. We'll put you on a 2-way. I don't know that Marquise Noel is going to get a 2-way because he is like Devon Dotson was 6 feet tall. Now, he didn't have much of an outside shot like Marquise does. He was also fast. He was a little bit bigger. I don't know that Noel's going to get a two-way contract. I would be shocked if by the time we wake up tomorrow morning, he's not on a team. I assume he is going to get signed tonight or first thing tomorrow morning.
The summer camp invite, G League invite, I think something like that is probably in his future. And you want to bet on Marquise Noel, you go ahead.
Yep.
It's one of those things. Like, there are all kinds of reasons to be skeptical of what Marquise Noel's NBA future might look like. And the most obvious one is he's not real tall. And guys who are his size, there's a reason that you know who they all are. Like, there's a reason it's not many. It's Muggsy Bogues and it's Earl Boykins and it's Spud Webb and like a handful of other guys, Calvin Murphy. Like, not a lot of guys that size make it to the NBA. But Noel, I'm sure, is acutely aware of that, and he has defied the odds. He has proven that he can play at a high level in one of the best, if not the best, college basketball leagues, conferences in the country. He's shown bright on the big stage of the NCAA tournament, and he is going to make the most of whatever opportunity it is that he is offered. If he does not wear an NBA uniform someday, it will not be because he doesn't have the constitution for it. He doesn't have the desire, and he doesn't have some of the skill as well. It's just tough at that size. It just is what it is.
I believe, and I looked into this a while back, I believe if he made an NBA roster and played an NBA game, he would be one of the 10 shortest players to ever suit up for an NBA game.
I think that's right.
Which, that's an uphill climb. But hey, those other 9 dudes made it, so there's a chance out there, and you're right, it's not going to be for any lack of trying. The opposite side of that spectrum, when you're talking about our local players, Grady Dick is expected by pretty much everybody to be a lottery pick. And we were talking about this on yesterday's show, Kyle and I were, about how the NBA draft is so funny because you end up with saying, well, it's a 2-person draft or it's a 3-person draft. Sometimes it's just a 1-player draft. And you think, well, there's 2 rounds. There's 60 picks. This year, 58 picks. Like, how can it be a 3-player draft? Well, the NBA is built on stars. And who are the most likely star players in this draft? And you go from 1 or 2 or 3 guys with legit star potential to like, yeah, I mean, maybe these guys will pan out. Maybe they'll be good. One of the Thompson brothers who was at Overtime Elite, or Cam Whitmore from Villanova, like maybe. And then the rest of the first round is a bunch of dudes who you probably think are either useful, but you don't think will be superstars, or like they're physical freaks. They just, might have a screw loose or 2, and we'll take them with pick number 20 and see what happens. Grady Dick is in that second to last group. I think genuinely, if you asked every single general manager in the league, every single one, and you said, we have this skill set, do you think this would make your team better? Do you think you could use a piece like this? I genuinely think everyone would say yes. A 6'7", 6'8", 3-point specialist who shot 40% in college, made his free throws, has an underrated game getting to the basket, and is tough, but probably isn't going to be a plus defender in the NBA. Yeah, we could use a piece like that. Absolutely. It's just in the draft, you're going for the big score. So instead of being like a 4th or 5th pick, he'll probably end up like, I think he'll be in the 10 to 14 range. Still a lottery pick. And a team could certainly use him in that spot. There's no doubt about that.
Most of the mock drafts I have seen, a lot of them early on have said that Orlando at pick number 11 is a really good fit. They're looking for shooting. Their ball handling guards that they have currently in Orlando are not real good shooters.
No.
So to be able to spread the floor around guys like Paolo Banchero and Markelle Fultz probably makes a lot of sense. The most recent ESPN mock draft, and Sam Vecini of The Athletic, who for my money is the best draft guy out there.
Agreed.
They both have Grady Dick going 11th to the Magic. Kevin O'Connor at The Ringer has Grady going 14th to New Orleans, the last pick of the lottery. Zach Harper from The Athletic put out his mock today. It's the first I've seen that doesn't have Grady as a lottery pick. He has him going 16th to Utah, which, insert your own joke. But the fit there is fairly obvious. Teams need shooting. And the thing about Grady Dick as a defensive player, when you're 6'8", there's only but so bad you can be on defense.
Mhm.
Like, you may not be a fundamentally great defensive player, but you know what you are when you're 6'8"? You're still 6'8".
You're in the way.
You're big.
Yeah.
It's like, and he's not this tall, but like Michael Porter Jr. for Denver.
Mhm.
Never thought of as a plus defender, not even the athlete that he was coming out of college. And people didn't think out of college he was going to be a very good defender. And that was 3 back surgeries ago, but he's still 6'10". And when you're 6'10" and you try, there are things that you can make shake on the defensive end. Like, is he going to hold up one-on-one against, Kyrie Irving in his bag or whatever it is? Man, probably not. But like, can he block a shot from the weak side if he's in the right place? Can he contest shots if he closes out aggressively and make it hard for guys to score over him? Sure he can. And Grady Dick, I think, can be that kind, even though he's 2 inches shorter than Porter. It's not a perfect comparison.
Yeah.
But I do think that that's the kind of impact he can have for a team on the low end is the kind of impact Porter's had for the Nuggets. Like, he's their 3rd best player, but he's knockdown shooter from anywhere on the court, can get up for his own shot, can create his own shot, and can be passable with effort and understanding of the game on the defensive end.
I think in terms of fit, Orlando would be great for him. And I mean, the team is not very good, but if you really believe in in the talent and the potential of their hopeful superstars, looking at Paolo Banchero, among others, I mean, it's a great fit. You want to be able to space the floor and give opportunities for that guy who you think can be an all-NBA player. You want to open up opportunities for him. You want to give him kick-out options when he's down by the basket. There's no better option in this draft than Grady Dick. So I think he's going to be a lottery pick. I was a little surprised Zach Harper didn't have him in the lottery. 24/7 Sports, they also had Dick going 11th to Orlando, which makes me think that somebody with Orlando has leaked out, like, yeah, if he's there, we're taking him. Like, that's who we want. When all these unaffiliated media companies are all producing the same thing, that makes me feel like there's something in the works there.
John Hollinger did a mock draft for The Athletic as well, and he basically said, I think their need at 11 is Grady Dick, but he had Orlando at 11 taking Kobe Buffkin out of Michigan because
interesting.
Again, that's the upside play.
Yeah.
And that's like, this is what I would do if I were them, not what I think they're actually going to do.
That's fair.
And Hollinger's pretty tied in as well. So like Grady Dick going 11 to Orlando. Yeah. Do not be surprised if that actually does come true. That feels like something we've seen in a lot of quarters.
The intrigue, I'm interested in where Grady Dick is going to end up tonight, but the second round, early to mid second round, and I guess maybe it ends up later in the second round, that's where you're going to see Jalen Wilson and Keontae Johnson go. Before predicting where they're actually going to fall or what the best fits would be, and I say this not as a criticism really of Jalen Wilson or as a critique of him or even like trying to make Keontae Johnson into this can't miss prospect. I am a little bit surprised, though, that Jalen is almost unanimously considered a better prospect, or at least more likely to get picked before Keontae Johnson. I would make that pick. I think if you are trusting in what Kansas has produced in recent years, not even just at the top of the lottery, but you're looking at Svi Mykhailiuk has not been a great NBA player. He's bounced around to like 8 different teams, but he's a useful 8th player.
They keep giving him a jersey.
Yep. He keeps being a trade piece. They keep moving him. Like, somebody wants him. Devontae Graham has played for fewer teams, but has been kind of the same thing, drafted early second round. KU has churned out a lot of those guys, even guys who have been drafted earlier. Like, Kelly Oubre was never a superstar, but he's a guy who you could get 20 points a game out of, especially for a not-so-good team. I'm not saying Jalen Wilson's a player like them. In fact, he's by far the worst athlete out of that group, but maybe the guy I would trust the most, like, hey, maybe not Devontae, I'd put Devontae Graham up there, but like, hey, I need you to go make a smart play. Like, it's overtime and all of our dudes have fouled out. We need an emergency ball handler. Jalen Wilson, that's going to be you. I would trust him in that situation because I've seen his body of work and I've seen his three-pointer get better. That being said, Keontae Johnson, I think at the next level projects as a little bit more of a I can go get mine guy because he's bigger. He's not going to shoot threes at the next level very much, but he's a little bit bigger and he's certainly more athletic than Jalen Wilson. So I'm a little surprised that all these NBA draft guys have Wilson going ahead of Johnson. I would think that might be more of a split.
The only mock draft I have seen, and I haven't seen them all because, there are a billion of them, NBA draftboy.ru.biz. I haven't gotten
Putin
that.
might actually run that website.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that one yet. But the only mock draft I've seen that has Keontae ahead of Jalen Wilson is Kevin O'Connor at The Ringer. He has Keontae Johnson 45th to Memphis, which stylistically that feels right. There's a bit of bully to Keontae Johnson's game.
Actually, that fit does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, like he feels like a Memphis Grizzly to me. And I mean that in a complimentary way. Like, I'm not talking about like knucklehead waving fake guns around on Instagram kind of fit as a Grizzly.
No,
I'm not talking about I poke bears kind of fit as a
grit
Memphis
and
Grizzly.
grind. Yeah.
But yeah, just like tough, hard nosed, physical. He'll back you down to get a bucket. Like he'll play hard, got that dog in him, all that. Like Keontae Johnson as a Memphis Grizzly would make a certain amount of sense to me. I can see that. The Ringer, Kevin O'Connor, The Ringer has Johnson 45th to Memphis, Jalen Wilson 49th in that same mock draft to Cleveland, who of course drafted Ochai Agbaji last year and then moved him on that draft day trade to Utah. All the other mock drafts I've seen have Wilson ahead. Every mock draft I've seen has Wilson being drafted.
Love that.
Not everyone has Keontae Johnson being drafted. Zach Harper at The Athletic didn't have Johnson in his 58 pick mock. Sam Vecini did not rate Johnson, unless I misread his draft guide, as a top 100 player in the draft or top 100 prospect in the draft.
Really?
But does have him being drafted. He has him, in fact, going 49th to the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is the thing that is interesting about the players like Jalen Wilson and Keontae Johnson in this draft. There is not, outside of, let's say, 4 guys in this draft, maybe 5. There is not a lot of all-star upside in this draft. A lot of the upside in this draft is really good role player, because you've got freaky wing athletes who can't shoot, or creators who maybe aren't as big as you'd like, or shooters who maybe aren't as physical as you like. But you've got a bunch of guys in this draft who feel like really good role players, guys who can come in and fill a need for a team right away because of a certain thing they do well. You talked about Jalen Wilson's basketball IQ, his ability to get a rebound, his ability to create his own shot, get up for his shot against tough defense. Now, Jalen Wilson is a flawed prospect because we don't know how good a shooter he's going to be in the NBA. He wasn't a great one in college. Typically, if you're not a great shooter in college, you're not going to be a great shooter in the NBA. And he wasn't he wasn't a knockdown three-point shooter in college. He was 34% three-point shooter. But movement without the ball is good. Defensive effort is good. Rebounding is good. He feels like a guy who can be a role player right out of the box.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Keontae Johnson rebounds, can get his own shot, can, play that bully ball like we talked about, can score in the mid-range, can score in the low post against defenders of a similar size, has that mid-range touch, even if, again, he didn't have great three-point shooting numbers. Already a veteran player, little older, obviously lost a couple of years because of the heart condition, but has played a lot of basketball. So in this draft, a lot of it comes down to, and it will be hard to know until things start to shake out, the teams that draft in that second round, what role do they feel like they need filled? And what player available? Because there are a lot of Jalen Wilson type players in this draft.
Yeah.
Like Andre Jackson from UConn, Jordan Walsh out of Arkansas, Ricky Council out of Arkansas, Kobe Brown out of Mizzou.
That's the name I thought of. Yeah.
You could maybe say Jaime Jaquez out of UCLA.
He's getting some first round buzz now.
Yeah,
he's really moved up a lot.
He could go mid first round. Never mind like the late first round. Like he feels like a guy who might go mid first round.
And I do think when you're talking about role players and, hey, we need a specific thing filled, if you're a team that is in the playoff picture already, taking a guy like a Jalen Wilson, like a Keontae Johnson, or Jaime Jaquez, or Andre, these guys who are old, like, we talk about the potential in the NBA draft, and that's what teams draft based on, is potential and projections. But if you say, hey, look, we need a rebounder, and we need a guy who can be, a tertiary scorer off the bench. We don't need him to play a lot. He's going to play 10 minutes a game. but if we need him to score 6 points, he can go get us 6 points, and we need him to be able to do that now. That's what a Jalen Wilson or a Keontae Johnson could do, as opposed to we're going to draft a 19-year-old who just had his birthday and is huge, but is also like 80 pounds underweight, and we'll see.
Yeah, and shot 27% from three in his only college season, or whatever it is. One thing I do think is interesting is that Keontae Johnson's representation has already arranged for him to do media availability after the draft.
Yeah,
I got that PR email
Same.
earlier from Kansas State. That to me suggests, and him appearing in these mock drafts, despite him not being like, if you did a ranking of the top 50 just pure basketball prospects, Keontae Johnson might not be on that list because age and size. Like if he were 6'8" and if he were 20, he'd be on all those lists.
Yeah.
But he's 6'5" and he's 23. But he keeps turning up on all these mock drafts. So what that sounds like to me is there is at least one team out there that really likes him. And there is one team out there who wants him on a 2-way contract and is going to draft him in the second round, has made him a promise that, hey, we're going to take you if you get to us. So I think there's a lot of confidence in the Keontae Johnson camp that he's going to hear his name called tonight. What a great story that's going to be. What an awesome journey it has been to witness for Keontae Johnson. And I think he's a winning player. I think he proved at Kansas State he's a great teammate and willing to do the things that are necessary to win. And so what it comes down to, as far as whatever NBA team takes him or Jalen Wilson, is what is the fit? What are they looking for? What do they value? An interesting team to watch, I think, for Jalen Wilson is the same team that drafted his college teammate in the first round last year and saw him play rotation minutes as a rookie for the NBA champions. I think Denver's an interesting team. They have made a lot of moves in the draft. They are now picking 29th, 32nd, and 37th. And I think Jalen Wilson could make some sense there.
Yeah,
and
Sam Vecini has that happening in his mock.
And I think that the reason it makes sense from that perspective is the one thing that Denver really liked about Christian Braun is he was a winning player. And Jalen Wilson has been a winning player. So,
yeah, didn't Bill Self call him one of the best winners that KU's ever had?
Yeah.
It has pretty high praise from that guy.
Pretty high praise. So I expect both of those young men to hear their names called tonight. And I'm excited to see what they can do, because I think in the right situation, they can be contributing rotation players right out of the gate for whoever drafts.
I'll give you one final bold thought on where Keontae and Jalen end up. I will predict one of them, can't be both. I will predict one of them goes 44th to San Antonio. I think a low ceiling, probably, again, given age, size, athletic restrictions on either one, whatever. Lower ceiling, higher floor. Guys are going to want to come to San Antonio to play because they're going to want to play with Victor Wembanyama. That is going to be a popular destination to go to in the next several years. Their roster right now, as it stands, not especially good. Getting a guy who is still relatively young, who is going to be cheap for 3 years, who you can say, hey, look, we might need you to play 20 minutes in some games. Can we rely on you for that? Guys who are smart, guys who you can trust, that feels like smart pieces to put around maybe the next face of the NBA. So I think maybe they want to go in a different direction. No, Sam Vecini has them going with Seth Lundy from Penn State, another veteran guy who's got some limitations, but also some intriguing skills. I think San Antonio takes one of those guys. I think either one would be a really nice fit next to Wemby. Go ahead.
Yeah, one more final draft question for you before we go to break here. Victor Wembanyama, greatest basketball player of all time or greatest professional athlete of all time?
He looks like a freak. And I've seen the highlights, when
Did
they
you
pop
see what a baseball looked like in his hand?
It looks like a marble. It was like you or I holding an egg.
that old shot of Andre the Giant holding a can of beer.
He threw the first pitch the other day. Was it the Yankee game?
Yeah, Yankee game, yeah.
It was a bad throw. He's French. I don't expect him to have ever played baseball before. But I would think with arms that long and skinny, it's probably hard to throw a baseball. Like, your arm is all over the place. Where's it going to go? How do you know? I am very worried for his sake. We are getting close to Andrew Luck territory. Andrew Luck was a really good NFL quarterback while he played. It would have been literally impossible, short of like 4 Super Bowls, for Andrew Luck to ever live up to the hype. There was no way. He is still like, well, man, Trevor Lawrence, best prospect since Luck, right? Or Caleb Williams, man, is he a better prospect than Andrew? Like, he is still the measuring stick for draft type in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't get bigger than Wembanyama this side of LeBron. You can't do it. And I'm just afraid that, like, what if he's just really good?
Yeah.
Is that a disappointment?
What if he's not a combination between Kevin Durant and Kevin Garnett? Because that's what it looks like he can be, which is like a top 5 player in the history of the game.
That big board you were talking about from The Athletic that Sam Vecini had, he broke down, like, numbered what tier is this player in. Brandon Miller and Scoot Henderson, the supposed numbers 2 and 3 picks tonight, they were in tier 1. Well, what about Victor Wembanyama? He was in tier Vic. They put him above everyone else. Like, this is unbelievable hype. I just don't know that he possibly can meet up to it.
You know, I wondered about that too. I wondered if it could possibly be real, if there's any way. Like, I wasn't a great 3-point shooter in the French league.
Yeah.
Like, you look it up. Then you see that clip of him crossing somebody up on the left wing and shooting the step back 3 and missing the shot, and somehow in 2 steps rising up and dunking in his own miss of a 3-pointer. And you think this is not real. Like, how could this be a real person? Like, if it clicks, it could be something we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And that is tantalizing. The big concern is that he's 7'4", and guys that tall typically do not have the longest careers.
Yeah, because you've got so much freaking weight up here on your knees. Like,
yeah, like, it's just typically, those guys get hurt.
Feet. Yeah,
feet, knees, like legs. Those guys do not have the staying power of even like a 7'1" guy or a 7-footer like Kevin Durant is, but won't tell anybody.
Yeah. No, it'll be fascinating to watch his career. And I hope it's a great one, because that means more entertaining basketball for you and I.
Amen.
Let's get to a break. We will get to our What Is Wrong With You coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk.
Former KLA President David Cross
What is wrong with you on this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk? Our weekly winner so far, this was Kyle's story earlier in the week. The Petty Pennies, an auto shop owner who really just did not want to pay his employees. One of his employees said, hey, man, you owe me $915. So how did the pissed off auto shop owner respond? By bringing 91,500 oiled up pennies to this worker and then dumping them in his driveway with a note that had an expletive on it.
Nah, man. Absolutely not.
91,000 oily pennies.
I would have loaded as many of them as I could in a pillowcase and gone looking for that guy.
He also, by the way, has been ordered to pay more than $40,000 in other unpaid wages to people he was working overtime.
Man, that guy sucks.
Yeah, he does suck. Two news stories today, though. Before we get to those, I want to remind you that What Is Wrong With You is sponsored by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, which saves your time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to metal with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field.
Can I just say before we get started?
Please.
I know you covered this on yesterday's program, but the assistant bowling coach at Stephen F. Austin, had you routed that into the What Is Wrong With You category, I firmly believe he could have won the year.
I just can't believe he gave those quotes, man.
He said those things out loud to a reporter.
He was sick of his wife going on the road and leaving him with the kids. He just couldn't take it anymore. A role reversal of a story we have heard many times.
Just incredible. Absolutely one of the most bonkers stories I've ever heard of.
So funny. So funny. Yeah, that got its own segment on yesterday's show.
I am legitimately saddened that I missed that. You could have told, I would have called in from the tarmac at Tampa International to have been a part of that segment.
Since it is your first day back this week, Dan, why don't you go first?
All right, we're going across the pond to jolly old England for this one. We go to the Bristol airport. Have you seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Of course.
Is that the best Chicago movie?
Ooh. I'm putting it number 2 behind the Blues Brothers.
Fair. Entirely fair.
Yeah.
So there's the great scene where Ferris and his buddy, what is his name? Alan Ruck's the actor. Cameron.
Yeah, Cameron, yeah.
Ferris and Cameron, obviously Ferris has borrowed Cameron's dad's sweet car, and they give it to a valet to park, and the valets take it for a joyride through Chicago.
Yeah.
Right. And somebody decided they would do that for real. Bristol Airport has confirmed action has been taken after a car park valet was caught red-handed taking a joyride behind the wheel of a top-end BMW. How was he caught red-handed, you ask? He forgot to turn off the dash cam before he went on his little spin around the car park. The owner of the car, Rob Butler, was outraged when he saw what had been going on while he was away in Greece. He shared the dash cam. I got 2 words ahead. He shared the dash cam footage on social media, asking for users to find his name, posting #SilverZoneBristol. Is this the way you allow a staff member to drive my car? The footage shows the valet approaching the high-end vehicle. The dash cam records as an unauthorized driver revs up the powerful engine and heads around the car park at speed, including a straight section where the car is accelerated. Also sharing the video on YouTube, Mr. Butler posted dangerous driving by staff member at #SilverZone, #Bristol Airport. He forgot to turn my dash cam off. To add insult to injury, Mr. Butler later posted on an auto Facebook group that someone had written "nice car" in the collected dust across the driver's side door. He asked for help in removing the message, posting, anyone know if it's possible to remove marring from a ceramic coating in an isolated area? My car was at Bristol Airport for a week whilst away and collected dust, and someone decided to write "nice car" across the driver's side door. It's not bad, but the marring is notable in the sunlight. He might as well have used a scourer to write it.
Jeez.
So obviously this guy's a little finicky about his car.
A little
but
bit.
also, obviously, if you're a valet, you can't do this. You may want to do this. You may dream about doing it. You may have seen those guys in Ferris Bueller's Day Off live out your own fantasy, but you cannot do this.
Say Ferris. Man, that is phenomenal. My story is going to take us to another foreign country. It's called Florida. The Palm Coast.
Yeah, I was just there.
25 miles north of Daytona Beach.
It's not about me, is it?
No, thankfully it is not.
No. Didn't get too much Florida man
That's good.
residue anywhere.
That is always the disclaimer when one of us leaves for vacation. Do not end up on What Is Wrong With You. But we do meet 46-year-old David Romero, who was being arrested for shoplifting. And while in the middle of the arrest, a small pink vibrator fell out of his pants.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he was at a Target in Palm Coast, Florida, and it all kind of fell apart from there. While the handcuffed Romero was being placed in the rear of a police cruiser, a marital aid fell out of his pants. It was later revealed to have been stolen from the Target. A subsequent search of Romero's truck turned up an assortment of other stolen goods, including multiple brands of condoms, lubricant, certain other marital aids, and a piece of shapewear that he did not scan at the self-checkout line. When asked about the merchandise, Romero got a little too personal and said he and his wife were planning to use them. By the way, this gentleman who lives just 8 miles from the Target was charged with a misdemeanor for allegedly swiping goods worth $187.23. He is being held in Flagler County Jail in lieu of $3,000 bond. And he has 2 other pending theft cases, including 5 separate shoplifting incidents at the same Walmart. Dude, pick a new one or just get it all at once.
I'm going to keep it real. I didn't know they sold that stuff at Target.
I did not either. I have I've never looked for those at Target.
That's not an aisle I've been down.
No, that's that must be that super Target selection, I guess. I did not know they sold those.
Things are a little different in Florida.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to get Clorox wipes for the kitchen and maybe some popsicles, and I'm going to go swing by Sporting Goods on my way out. I did not ever see these at the Target. Who you got for today?
I'm going to go with
ones.
I'm going to go with the valet.
Yeah, man.
Just turn off the dash cam. You might have gotten away with it.
I imagine he would have seen it, right? Like he would have seen that there's a camera on me, or there's a camera somewhere in here.
I guess not, because if I see there's a camera maybe recording, I'm either trying to turn it off, and if I can't turn it off, I know I'm not going to get away with what I'm about to do.
Yeah, I'll join you in that. Does that beat the petty pennies?
Man, oily pennies on somebody's... That is an all-time jerk-ass maneuver. That's going to be hard to beat.
Not even oily pennies. 91,000 of them.
That's so many.
He's going to have pennies in his yard forever. Forever. I'm gonna vote for that one as well. The petty pennies. They win again in What Is Wrong With You. Brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. That's Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. Before we get out of here on this Thursday afternoon, we've got a quick look at some major 580 Sports Talk headlines after this here on 580 Sports Talk.
Let's face it.
on 580 Sports Talk. We're done early for Royals baseball, but we did want to get to a few major 580 Sports Talk headlines before we get out of here. Number one for me, this has some significant local interest, possibly. The second to last IARP case has been resolved. Will Wade, the former head coach at LSU, he has been given a 2-year show cause penalty.
That's a strong ass show cause.
He is the God. That is the funniest thing that came out of all the wiretaps is Will Wade saying that.
Yes.
Also, the guy who said TCU tried to cheat and they were just bad at it.
Yeah.
That's the second funniest
He
one.
did. They got him on tape saying that. He didn't know anybody was going to hear that. He thought he could just slander the Horned Frogs and it'd be good.
So LSU has been put on probation, both basketball and football. And former LSU coach Will Wade, who's now at McNeese State, he's got a 2-year show cause penalty, which we don't know the specifics of the show cause. The expectation is just that he's not going to be able to go recruit in person for the next 2 years, which A, it's McNeese. You can probably get away with that. But B, even at a bigger program, you might not get fired for that if you're a good enough coach. I saw some LSU fans today. I actually know a handful who were pretty infuriated by this. Like, LSU blew up its entire basketball program for this. We tore the entire thing down to the studs for this.
Yeah.
And I get it. The significance, I said second to last, there is one team left waiting for an IARP ruling. That is the Kansas Jayhawks.
37 wins forfeited by LSU football.
Yes.
In the same ruling, because football also on probation. It was found that they played an ineligible player from 2012 to 2015. Offensive lineman Vidal Alexander was not eligible, and they played him. And so they had to forfeit 37 wins. I think forfeiting wins is silly. We all saw the wins happen. You can't erase.
They're on tape.
Yeah.
We have video.
You can't erase results. I don't like that very much, but this is notable in this sense. Those 37 wins are expunged from the coaching record of the coach who won those games, which, of course, is former Kansas head coach Les Miles. And though that loss of wins means that his career win total is now below the standard for the College Football Hall of Fame.
Interesting.
So
interesting.
Maybe that inspires him to make a comeback.
Oh, God bless whoever wants to deal with that. He and Jeff Long can go. Hey, I'm going to stop before I say anything I regret.
Right.
I don't want to get in trouble with the FCC.
A lot going on in the NBA today. Obviously, we talked about the NBA draft. That is tonight in Brooklyn. Major NBA transactions in the last 24 hours. The Boston Celtics acquiring Kristaps Porzingis from the Washington Wizards in a 3-team deal that has also sent Marcus Smart to the Memphis Grizzlies, which is you talk about players who fit the Grizzlies mindset. Marcus Smart is that guy. And it kind of feels like the Celtics traded their heart and soul for Kristaps Porzingis.
They have decided that defense does not matter because they traded a guy who loves to play defense and is very good at it for a guy who would rather do anything but play defense.
Now, they need to go get a real point guard. They didn't have a real point guard. Marcus Smart's not a point guard. And they need to get bigger, but I just don't know that this was all the right way to go about it. Also, former Washington Wizard legend Chris Paul, acquired by the team just a week ago, has been traded to the Golden State Warriors in exchange for Jordan Poole. There's some other things going in the deal as well, but Chris Paul now is a Golden State Warrior. We'll see how long that lasts. The Warriors are saying publicly that they envision keeping Chris Paul and going on a championship run, which LOL, LMAO. You're not doing that with Chris Paul. That's established. Jordan Poole, meanwhile, is going to get up so many shots again as a Washington Wizard. But the most interesting thing that happened in the NBA today is none of those things. It is a bit of a news dump today. The Qatari Investment Fund is buying a minority stake in a company called Monumental, which owns the Washington Wizards and also the Washington Capitals.
Of the NHL.
Yes. So we warned about this when we were talking about the merger between the PGA Tour and the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, that it was only a matter of time before Middle Eastern investment funds permeate our professional team sports. And here we are. It took way less time than I thought between the announcement of the Live PGA merger to get to here. But here we are. $4.05 billion the reported cost for the investment fund to buy it.
Yeah, we talked about this a while back when we found out, I don't remember if it was part of the CBA or a different agreement, but we found out the NBA was going to allow foreign entities and governments to purchase shares of teams. They're the first league in the United States to allow that. We warned you this was coming. Even before that was made official, we said, hey, look, if they're going to sports wash race car driving and they're going to sports wash soccer and golf, just wait. Because you know what country loves sports as much as any country in the entire world? The United States. And it is coming. And the NBA said, oh, cool. Sure. Awesome. And now the Qatari Investment Fund, which is not exactly like a clean organization.
Now, because American sports are salary capped, it will be limited in the impact that kind of money and that kind of spending can make, as opposed to the obvious impact it has had on European soccer, where if you are bought by one of those investment funds or, oil money, essentially, you dominate, like Manchester City.
Yeah.
That's not going to be what happens here. Like the Wizards and Capitals are not going to become powerhouses. There are salary caps. But oil money is now in American sports, and probably there's been a piece of it that has been.
Yeah.
I should say Middle Eastern oil money. These investment funds, they are now a part of American sports, and every one of us has to decide how it is that we feel about that.
Yeah, that's not going away. By the way, last thing, College World Series tonight, LSU Wake Forest elimination game. Who goes to the final?
Oh man, Rhett Lauder and Paul Skeens tonight. Watch this game if you want to see two of the best pitchers, probably top 10 picks in the upcoming Major League Baseball entry draft. Skeens is awesome, but Wake Forest hasn't lost a Rhett Lauder start this year. I don't think that streak stops today. I think the Demon Deacons win.
I'll take LSU. Give me Paul Skeens. One final timeout coming up. We'll finish things up with the final word next.
In conclusion, you better wrap it up.
Time to wrap up this short edition of 580 Sports Talk before Royals baseball. Dan, you're up first with the final word.
Royals Rays tonight. I only missed one Royals win on vacation. If you're looking for a bright spot, it's only one more. It's one more Rockies win than I missed while I was away from home. If you're watching the Rays this weekend, I hope JJ Piccolo and company are watching very closely this weekend and looking at the Rays and saying, in 5 years, this is us, where we break our backs trying, and we'll do anything, including firing some people that maybe have been in their jobs too long to make that happen.
Final word for me today. Lucky you, there is a major sports-related event on tonight. If you don't want to watch the Royals play the Rays, you can check out the NBA draft and see where some of our local players, Grady Dick, Keontae Johnson, Jalen Wilson, maybe Marquise Noel, where are they going to end up? And if you are not something fun outside and listen to the game on the radio. That does it today, though, for 580 Sports Talk. We're back from 3 to 5 again tomorrow, getting you ready for the weekend. We'll talk to Matt Derrick about all things Chiefs and so much more. That's coming up tomorrow. But for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Enjoy the Royals game. We'll send you to the Royals Radio Network next on 580 WIBW.